The arrow stuck forcefully in Sadie's right eye. She put her hand over it and couldn't help but clench her teeth in pain. The pain became more intense, causing her to scream. Vainsy Mogg, who was controlling his golem with a magic circle, heard the screams, and his eyes widened in confusion, making him turn around to see what was happening. With a worried expression, he couldn't help but wonder if crazy Sadie was doing something to the students. Back in the room where the exam was taking place, the eyes of all the students were filled with surprise and fear, making their jaws drop. Not long after, Vainsy Mogg, who was somewhat worried about the safety of the students, appeared and forcefully opened the door that previously seemed to be blocked. The eyes of Vainsy Mogg were shining with rage. He extended his hand and couldn't help but get angry upon seeing that Professor Sadie had even locked the door, questioning if she was treating the students harshly again. Tudor, who was next to him, began to observe in silence, not knowing what was happening. Once Tudor, Bianca, Dolores, and Professor Vainsy Mogg entered the room, they saw Sadie kneeling on the ground with an arrow stuck in her eye, writhing in pain and rage. Upon seeing this scene, everyone froze without knowing what had happened. Vainsy Mogg's eyes widened in surprise, his attention fixed on Sadie. He couldn't believe she was bleeding and had no idea how on earth it had come to pass. The gaze of Tudor, who was behind him, filled with concern when he looked to one side and saw something terrifying. Not far from the area were the unconscious and blood-covered bodies of Sancho, Sinclair, and Piggy. Upon seeing this, Tudor did not hesitate for a second and started running toward them to see if they were okay. Professor Sadie was lying on the ground writhing in pain. Our boy, who was holding the bow, began walking toward them with a calm demeanor. Vainsy Mogg's attention fixed on him, he asked what had happened here. Professor Sadie's golem was standing behind them. Vicar turned around and with a sincere expression explained that during the exam, the golem had surprised him by charging at him, so he had shot an arrow that went through the golem and struck Professor Sadie in the eye. Vainsy Mogg, somewhat confused, turned around and began to observe the golem in silence. He was not very sure whether to believe Vicar. His attention focused on Professor Sadie. His eyes widened in surprise since he had seen many students get hurt. But this time it was the first time he saw a teacher get hurt. Sadie's eye was shining with hatred. She clenched her teeth and started staring intently at Vicar. The injured teacher was Sadie, so Vainsy Mogg didn't know if this could be considered karma. Vicar clenched his fist and stood in front of Sadie, looking at her with an expression without remorse. The point compilation was completed. From Class B of the Ice Corps, Cadet number 256, Vicar managed to land 1 hit, 0 evasions, 0 defenses, and 1 critical hit, obtaining a total of 11 points. They gathered the injured and unconscious bodies of Sancho, Sinclair, and Piggy. Dolores knelt down, extended her hands and began using her power to heal them, making golden energy appear around their bodies. Her attention fixed on them. She began observing them with a worried expression in silence. Little by little, their wounds began to heal. After analyzing carefully, she realized that Sinclair had suffered internal injuries due to the reverse flow of mana, Sancho had bruises all over his body, and Piggy had an impact that had shattered his jaw. She focused even more on healing the wounds, making the golden energy grow more intense. She knew better than anyone that these were not injuries students taking an exam should have. With a worried expression, Tudor asked the Saintess if Sancho and the others were okay. Upon hearing his voice, Dolores turned toward him and with a sincere gaze mentioned that thanks to Tudor calling her quickly, everyone would recover from their injuries and would not have any after effects. Bianca, who was next to Tudor, remained silent. Tudor crouched down to observe them closely. He and Bianca couldn't help but feel relieved to see that they were going to recover from their wounds. The Saintess Dolores stood up, clenched her fist and with a lost gaze, turned her back on them and began to walk away from the area. Professor Sadie, who had her hand over the wound on her eye, sat on the stairs and took off her hat. Dolores approached her, extended her hand and in a very calm manner asked if she could see the wound. She began to look at Sadie and with a serious expression mentioned that when her wounds improved, she was going to file a disciplinary complaint against her before the student council for excessive use of force against students. Far from feeling fear, an evil smile spread across Sadie's face. She asked, if Dollars was the saintess of the prestigious Quo Vadis family. With a worried gaze, Dollars began to extend her hand toward her and decided to quickly heal the wound. But then something happened. Professor Sadie pulled out the arrow that was lodged in her eye, causing blood to emerge from it. Upon seeing this, Dollars' eyes widened in surprise and confusion, leaving her in shock. Professor Sadie put the arrow into her mouth and her eyes began to shine with malice and excitement. With an evil smile, she refused to accept the help of the saintess. Upon seeing this, all the students began to feel fear and repulsion. While on the other side, Banksy Mogg started staring at her with a furious expression and clenched his teeth. Professor Sadie stood up and with her eye bleeding, turned her back to Dollars and as she was walking away, mentioned that if she was going to punish her for this, then she could do it. But advised her that it would be better to wait for the day when she lifted the punishment from her. Dollars began observing her in silence, not knowing what was happening. A smile appeared on Sadie's face since there were many things that amused her these days, including the night bloodhound that stirred up the night of the Empire. She passed by Vicker's side, raised her head and with a cheerful smile asked if his name was Vikir. Our boy did not turn to her and with a lost expression, began to look at the ground in silence. She started to walk away from them and with an arrogant tone, promised to remember Vicker's name, vowing that they would meet again. Our boy raised his head and his eyes began to shine with anticipation. He could not wait for that day to come. Finally, the curtain fell on the long midterm exam and the results were published, causing many curious students to gather to see them. In first place was Sinclair. In second Granule of Leviathan, in third Tudor, in fourth Hybera, in fifth Bianca, in sixth Middleborough, in seventh Sancho, in eighth Lowborough. Vikir was 21st and lastly Piggy was in 199th place. The students who had lost many points after encountering Professor Sadie during the attack exam were able to retake it thanks to the other professors. Among them were Sancho, Piggy and Sinclair. All seemed happy, and Sinclair, whose scores were restored, became the best student of the first year. However, everyone's attention was not on the first place but on another person. Just then, a brown-haired student passed through the hallway. Upon seeing this, one of the students placed his hand on his friend's shoulder and while pointing at the student with his finger and with a surprised gaze, asked if he was the famous student. While our boy was walking down the hallway, everyone's attention focused on him. Now he was the center of attention and liked by all the girls since he had been the only one who managed to land an effective hit on Professor Sadie. Not only that, but he had also destroyed one of her eyes. All the trauma they had received from Demon Sadie was now disappearing. Our boy was nicknamed the Eye Slayer and considered an authentic hero. Vikir, who was holding onto his backpack strap with one hand, showed no emotion because he knew this was the price for acting emotionally. Once he moved away from the students, he became serious and started imagining the night bloodhound. Life during the day existed only to continue his life at night, and for this reason, he tried not to get too involved in these matters. But when he had seen the kids being treated like trash, he had acted without realizing it. While our boy was distracted, a red-haired girl approached him and while adjusting her hair, closed her eyes and with a nervous expression handed him a love letter. Upon hearing her voice, Vikir snapped out of his trance and fixed his gaze on the letter. At that moment, a student began running toward them. Just before she could hand over the letter to Vikir, Hybera appeared and with an angry gaze snatched the letter with his mouth, leaving both Vikir and the girl confused. Hybera tore the letter like a dog with his teeth. Middleborough and Lowborough also appeared, stood in front of the girl and with a piercing expression asked who she was to block their way, making the girl start to feel fear. Vickers' attention fixed on them and his eyes widened in confusion. The triplets of the Baskerville family began escorting Vikir through the hallway and they started pushing people aside, saying that if they got in their way, they would disappear silently. Seeing this, all the students couldn't help but feel afraid. A smile appeared on the faces of the triplets. They started seeing themselves as heroes, thinking they had perfectly handled the situation. Our boy, who was walking behind them, couldn't help but praise them for having done a good job. Vikir went to the newspaper club. He opened the door and took off his backpack with a confident expression. He decided to be careful and not let his day be affected. When he looked forward, his eyes widened in surprise. In front of him was Dolores sitting and reading a newspaper while the sunlight was illuminating the room. She began to read attentively in silence. She was so distracted reading that she didn't notice Vickers' presence. He sat on the chair and with a surprised expression asked what she was reading to be frowning like that. Upon hearing his voice, she came out of her trance and couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised and start blushing. She stopped reading the newspaper and with a curious gaze asked when Vicky had entered. Our boy sat on the chair and calmly mentioned that just now she hadn't felt our boy's presence when he had entered. Vicky asked if there was any article about the night hound. She left the newspaper on the table, rested her hands on top of it, and mentioned that he had destroyed the monument of the imperial capital, the central clock tower, and damaged the royal memorial, and it was said that everything had been done by the night hound. Her eyes were shining with sadness. She explained that there was no physical evidence, but they had claimed that all these cases had been committed by the night hound. The perception people had of him was strange. Upon hearing this, Vicky became curious and his gaze fixed on her. The fact that there was someone who believed in him was more comforting than he had thought. He took the newspaper and with a calm expression began to read silently. The clock tower was a building that symbolized peace and order, and those who lived in the imperial capital looked at least once a day. Considering that they had destroyed the emblem of a city, our boy came to the conclusion that they held many grudges against society, realizing that this person might not be following what others were doing. His eyes were full of suspicion. He began to imagine Cindy Wendy with her hand under her chin. He started thinking about real memory. The information he had received from her yesterday said that contact between their informants had been cut off, which was something suspicious. Vicky rested his head in his hands and began to ponder silently. Dollars picked up the newspaper again and started reading it once more. Vicky knew he had to clean up the copper caps, but he didn't know if he should go investigate. Several hours later, night fell and someone wearing boots stood on top of the roof. It was Vicky who was disguised as the night bloodhound. He had come to the place where the royal memorial was located. His gaze fixed on the monument since it was a shared cemetery where the heroes of the empire lay. The place was protected by walls. After thinking calmly, Vicky remembered that the ninth corpse, Dantalion, was hidden near Indulgencia orphanage, so he could confirm whether that was a coincidence or not after investigating. At the entrance of the monument, there was a silver cross Vicky began to observe with a curious gaze in silence. He sat on the ground and leaned his back against a tombstone, and while the moon was illuminating the area, he immediately realized why Cindy Wendy's informants had disappeared. The reality was that the cemetery was full of zombies, with a risk rating of C, size of 1.7. These zombies inhabited the continent and were known as the Rotten One. They were common corpses that could be seen in places like graves, battlefields, abandoned houses, sewer systems, etc. One of the zombies opened its mouth and started to roar. Even though he was not very sure what these people had done when they were alive to become zombies, he knew that some of them were informants for Cindy Wendy. Vicky grabbed the weapon he carried on his back and while his eyes were shining, decided to use Anubis since it had been a while since the last time he used it. Using his hands, Vicky began to unscrew the weapon. This weapon was good because it was portable and easy to carry, but he couldn't believe that Ion had given him a weapon like this. He drew his bow in with a piercing gaze, prepared to shoot a mana arrow. With precision, our boy aimed at the zombies' heads, killing 3 without much difficulty. While the corpses were scattered on the ground, he began to walk and mentioned that this was on a different level compared to the arrow they had provided during midterm exams. It was a lie when people said that masters were not demanding with their weapon of choice. At that moment, a strange aroma spread through the air. Upon sensing this, Vicky stopped in place and his eyes widened in surprise. His attention was fixed to one side. This was definitely the smell of a demon. But compared to normal demons, the smell was very faint, as if its terribly unique scents were being diluted by something. Without wasting time, Vicky began to follow the trail of the smell at full speed. The scent came from the direction of the Indulgencia orphanage, so something was there. In the orphanage, someone invoked a magic circle on the ground. It was a woman wearing a skull mask. She extended her hand toward the magic circle and used her power, causing malignant energy to emerge from it. Just then, someone with red hair began to emerge from the magic circle. It was a woman. The woman wearing a mask extended her hand toward her and began to use her power again. The eyes of the red-haired girl were full of exhaustion. The masked woman could not believe that a petty thief had dared to steal from Dantalion. She hugged the girl and with a sincere gaze, apologized to Rose for losing her again. Her eyes began to shine with determination. She started whispering, promising not to let them take away her loved ones, vowing to annihilate hordes of cattle and beasts. She was Sayre, the eighth cop.